Baby, it's cold outside and anywhere except probably Florida. So what is going on? Thank you for making time and tuning in for a dose of quick good news. Do you know what's the good news? That there is good news. And today we are covering good news in New York, in Florida, and Bolivia. I am looking forward to enjoying this cup of coffee with you today. Who is the modern believer? Great question. It's you. It's our families. It's our communities. It's me. It's an individual that knows and believes that there's always good and change going on in the world, even though we are constantly bombarded with news that tells us that it's the opposite. Happy Monday. It's January 25th. Somehow we are almost 8% of the way done through this year. And wherever you may be, whenever and however you may be listening, it's another day to be thankful to be on the right side of the ground. Today's burning question of the day is, how do you get a squirrel to like you? Squirrels, you got to get them on your side, So you got to make sure that they like you. At least the squirrels in my neighborhood are very aggressive. They're always like, I walk with my dog and they're like, ah! I'm like, oh my God, chill, Gerald. I feel like squirrels would be named Gerald. Either way, stay tuned for the answer. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us in today's episode of The Modern Believer, a good news podcast that reminds us that the good news is that there is good news. Really appreciate you making time and joining all the other modern believers out there today. Please give today's episode a like and share it with your world. If it's your first time here, please follow or subscribe for more good news. For all the audio listeners out there, please hit the download and follow button and leave a review if you can. If you share on social, tag me so I know. Today, well, how about this? Today, let's ask for help. What do I mean? Sometimes you can't make it on your own, and that's okay. Sometimes you just can't. It's not easy to ask for help, but ask for help if you're feeling trapped, alone, anxious, or anything, in despair, lonely, anything. The opposite is true as well. Ask how you can help your loved ones. Literally no one ever does that. At work, I tell the new guys, I'm like, hey, listen. Anytime that you're working something with someone, just ask, how can I help? Those 4 words will mean a lot and get people to places. But again, literally no one ever does that. So be that one person for someone. I've got through a very dark period of time in 2017 where I was struggling with depression, and I didn't do it by myself. I did it thanks to friends that reached out to me and that I reached out to, and they were there for me. Did you know that on average a U.S. veteran commits suicide every hour? Life is hard, and that pain that is attached to that hardness and realness is very real. All those emotions. Ask for help, or be that person to ask for help. It's very easy to get to that point and where our minds just feel like a prison. Before we begin, though, I encourage you to make that phone call, send that text, forgive that person, tell them that you love them or that you have missed them, let go of that grudge, and don't take any of it for granted. And let's together show more kindness, because tomorrow isn't promised. Let's begin. Thank you, Aldo, for sending these good news. Earlier in January, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, which works to secure full and fair access to democratic citizenship by promoting equality in education, voting, and political participation, economic justice, and criminal justice, received an anonymous donation of $40 million. The Legal Defense Fund is actually celebrating its 80th anniversary this year, and they are giving this money right back to support the next generation of civil rights lawyers. They are launching the Marshall Motley Scholars Program, named after the founder, Thurgood Marshall, who was the first Black Supreme Court Justice, and Constance Baker Motley, the first Black woman to serve as a federal judge and argue a case before the Supreme Court. The scholarship will fund the education and training of 50 aspiring civil rights lawyers over the next 2 decades, including fully funding law school, summer internships, and a 2-year postgraduate fellowship at a racial justice law practice in the South. Those selected for the program, which focuses specifically on developing advocates for Southern Black communities, will also commit to practicing civil rights law for at least 8 years upon completion. Shout out to that anonymous donor who loved big and expected nothing in return. Thank you, Marissa, for sending these good news. This one is short and sweet. Anyone we see on TV, especially athletes, and in today's modern world, we often see them as superheroes and borderline untouchable. What we often forget through our idolization of public figures is that they are human too. and delicate as well. I mean, this week we recognize 1 year since Kobe Bryant passed away. And I don't know about you, but for me, it didn't feel real. I was just distraught. How could Kobe Bryant pass away? God bless him and his family. However, sometime last year, a photo went viral of former NBA player Delonte West, and who lost his fortune and was living on the streets. I think within a day or two, without exaggerating, billionaire entrepreneur and owner of the Dallas Mavericks, Mark Cuban, tracked Delonte West down and took him to a rehab center. He ended up in that situation after being diagnosed with bipolar disorder and battling substance abuse. Recent news actually just came out that Delonte West now has a job at a therapy center and has since reunited with his mother. Moral of the story is reach your hand out to those in need. We are all human and we are all delicate. Thank you, Shaya, for sending these good news. In Bolivia, the young population is helping out big. Adopting grandparents. They are adopting grandparents. What does that mean? Well, it started with Sergio Royela in La Paz, who lived far from his parents. He was concerned how they were dealing with COVID and quarantining. He asked a neighbor to help, and he paid it forward by adopting another grandfather in his neighborhood. Organización Adopta un Abuelito has been spreading love to the senior population of Bolivia, and since its inception in May of 2020, dozens of young people have volunteered to help. They have been delivering food, masks, gloves, words of encouragement, and love. One of the volunteers, Ana Rosa Guzman, shared with the Associated Press that her grandparents had both unfortunately already passed. She was 30 at the time, and that this seemed like a no-brainer to her. The Bolivian government was handing out aid packages, but many of the grandparents who are below the poverty line that are receiving this help from this organization couldn't go, or didn't have identification, or had another reason that they couldn't make it. Their grandchildren, or nietos in Spanish, did the work and were able to deliver those aid packages for them. Their mission is simple. Desprende un pedacito de tu corazón y ayuda a un abuelito mientras dure la cuarentena, con la compra de sus alimentos, medicamentos o alguna otra necesidad. That translates to give a piece of your heart and help a grandparent while the quarantine lasts with the purchase of food, medicine, or any other need. Now it's time for a few seconds of gratitude. Think of one thing you are grateful for today. If you think of more than one, that's great too. While you think of it, let's take one good deep breath together. You ready? I'll give you a countdown next time. Should have done that. Today, I am thankful for my legs. I'm gonna humble brag here. Crushed a 4-mile rolk today, and for the first time in a minute. That felt great. And yes, a rolk is my made-up word for a run/walk. Also, I'm thankful for you for tuning in today and making the world a better place when you were born. Though we can keep talking for hours, you need to go about your day, fly, be free. But before we go, I have to give you today's answer to today's burning question of the day. Do you remember the question? I'm just going to go ahead and tell you the answer, right? No, I'm going to remind you. The question was, how do you get a squirrel to like you? Act like a nut. Please continue to send more good news. Reach out to Chad and share the great things going on in your community or company. I will make sure to share those with the world. What was your favorite piece of good news today? Comment below. Or reach out to me on social and let me know. Please follow, subscribe, and leave a review. And share with one person that needs this today as well. Or share it with your world. Share it with everyone. And remember, it costs $0 to be a kind human being. I love you so much, and I am so proud of you, no matter where you are in life. You have a friend in me. Keep smiling and loving all the people we encounter in our walks of life. That smile and uplifting attitude you give them may change their day, and maybe, just maybe, thanks for that love you gave them, they start spreading that love on to others. And then, you already know what we do. We build a beautiful chain reaction to love. Stay blessed and keep fighting the good fight. Thanks for joining today's episode of The Modern Believer, a good news podcast that reminds us that the good news is that there is good news. Make it a great day.